Kia ora talofa, namaste, haere and welcome to the Niche Cache. We are here to talk about Aotearoa sport. And shout out to the Winter Olympics, shout out to all the snowboarders, the skiers, all the folks doing good stuff over there. Can't really offer much expertise, but I do enjoy watching a few spins, and there's more than a few, like they do like 10 spins in one move and stuff, and there's a lot of Kiwis. Like I think there were like 3 or 4 Kiwis in the snowboarding event, the Big Air, which was like one of the most I think Japan had a bunch of riders as well. We're doing the per capita thing pretty well across both Olympics, so shout out to the Winter Olympics, shout out to all the Kiwis involved. We love sports, so we're always having a watch, just can't really break it down for you, but shout out, big ups to everyone. I'm not sure if you've heard the song Whitey's on the Moon. Have you heard that song? Gil Scott-Heron?
Gil Scott-Heron, yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah, I heard it the other day, and it's every time I hear it, I chuckle. So shout out to all the Whiteys on the moon. Yeah, I'm not too fond, like the snowboarding and the skiing, I'm not too fond of Gil Scott-Heron, but he does some good stuff. The revolution will not be televised. Yeah. Whiteys on the moon. So shout out to all the Whiteys on the moon and everyone else not on the moon. And big up to Aotearoa sport. We have lots of football, cricket, rugby league, and a bit of basketball to discuss as usual. We're recording this on Tuesday ahead of Ford Trophy starting, so we'll get those teams dropped in later on in the podcast. But we've also got the Blackcaps versus UAE Tuesday evening at the T20 World Cup, and the Blackcaps had a good win against Afghanistan in their first game, which was a bit tricky because they have lost this corresponding fixture in the last World Cup. They lost to Afghanistan with Kane Williamson, with Trent Boult in the team, and obviously those two aren't there, so the Blackcaps are a better cricket team. This one, like the Blackcaps weren't dominant at any stage, so it always felt a bit sketchy. It always felt like it was a weird balance of like the Blackcaps look in control and they could lose this game at any moment, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from the Blackcaps under Rob Walter as coach. I don't think they've had many of those kind of slip up moments as they had in the last coaching era. And I really enjoy what Rob Walter's doing as coach, and I'm enjoying what this team is up to, because in this game, there were so many cool contributions. 7 bowlers used. That's a lot of bowlers. 5 wicket takers, and also basically every batter who faced 3 deliveries, let's say. Every single Blackcaps batter who faced 3 or more deliveries scored 20 runs or finished not out, all with strike rates over 150. Obviously, Finn Allen and Rachin Ravindra faced less than 3 deliveries. Finn Allen faced 2 deliveries for 1 run. Rachin Ravindra got a first baller, so we're still on Rachin Ravindra watch, because he kind of sucks at T20 batting, although that delivery from Mujib-ur-Rahman was one of the craziest deliveries I've ever seen. It was a spinner, and he bowled seam up, and it swung, and then it also seemed to seam. It started to show a bit of outswing to Ravindra, but it nipped a little bit as well. It's like, bro, that's a spinner doing that. He basically bowled, Tim Southee wasn't bowling quick, so he basically bowled Tim Southee to Rachin Ravindra, and he got him out first ball. Although we do know in T20 cricket, might not be so hard to dismiss Rachin Ravindra, so that's a wait and see on how he progresses. So the Blackcaps middle order had 4 batters who all scored with strike rates over 160. As I said, every batter who faced 3 or more deliveries had a strike rate over 150. Afghanistan had 2 batters over 160 strike rates. So that shows you the difference there. And that came down to Matt Henry, 1 wicket at 6.7 RPO, as one of the 2 bowlers conceding less than 10 RPO in that game. The other was the skipper Santner. Didn't take a wicket, but he was the most economical bowler in the game. 5.7 RPO. He also had the highest strike rate in the game, 212.5. And I don't want to say like, because it's the type of performance for the Blackcaps where everyone did a little bit of something. So you can say like, it's hard to say this person was overlooked when everyone did a little bit of something, or it's very easy to say you can't forget about Mark Chapman's knock, you can't forget about Glenn Phillips' knock and his fielding and this stuff, because everyone chipped in, and that's Blackcaps cricket fundamentals. But to me, Mitchell Santner's the most interesting dude at the end of that game, because his 4 overs, 5.7 RPO. No other Blackcaps bowler was below 6.5. No other Afghanistan bowler was below 7.5. So Mitchell Santner was the only bowler below 6.5 RPO in the game. That was very useful, and that's very important when we're trying to restrict Afghanistan to a score of less than 200, because I think 200 was gettable. And the Blackcaps reached their target of 183 at the end of the 18th over, so they could have scored 200 if they kept going on. But that's Mitchell Santner. He's an excellent bowler, one of the best T20 bowlers in the whole world. And funnily enough, he's another one of these Kiwi cricketers who is an excellent T20 cricketer who prioritizes Blackcaps over T20 jobs. Like, for every player you look at in the Blackcaps, like, oh, the dramas, the casual contracts, T20 jobs around the world, for every cricketer who wants a T20 job over playing for New Zealand, there is another one who prefers to play for New Zealand ahead of a T20 job. And for all the doom and gloom about T20 jobs compared to New Zealand cricket, like, if you're Mitchell Santner, you're still getting your T20 jobs, you're still making your money. It's not like you need to go all in on the T20 jobs ahead of the Blackcaps. You can play for the Blackcaps and have 3, 4, 5 T20 jobs around the world. And Mitchell Santner's one of our best T20 batters right now as well. That was on show in his 17 not out off 8 deliveries at the end of the innings to make the run chase a little bit easier. And it's also there since the start of October 2025, because Santner's averaging 47 with a strike rate of 185. The only other batter in this period averaging over 40 is Flynn. And the only bloke with a higher strike rate than Mitchell Santner in this period is Flynn, and Flynn only played 2 games. So basically, if you played more than 3 games, Mitchell Santner's our best batter. He's got the highest average and the highest strike rate. So I think we should be comfortable with this version of Mitchell Santner. Everyone should know that Mitchell Santner's batting has gone crazy. And this is part of a middle order that I really love. We got Glenn Phillips, Mark Chapman, Daryl Mitchell, Mitchell Santner. Mitchell Santner's batting ahead of Jimmy Neesham. And I did have a bit of a weird moment where I was thinking Jimmy Neesham's in the team because of his bowling. But Jimmy Neesham's in the team because of his batting. Because he's a bowler who can bat. So if we got Jimmy Neesham batting 9, 8. If we got Jimmy Neesham batting 8, that's all right. Well, it's all right if, like, we're not expecting too much from Jimmy Neesham because he's averaging 14 with a strike rate of 120 in the period since October 1st. We got Michael Bracewell averaging 8.6 with a strike rate of 104. Those are the dudes in the same role as Mitchell Santner. They're both averaging below 15 with strike rates below 120. Meanwhile, Mitchell Santner...
What's Soti's batting look like in that spell?
He's averaging 45 with a strike rate of 155. I just don't want to get too crazy, you know, because... well, that's better than Jimmy Neesham.
Who was probably picked ahead of Soti for this game, in part because this is like a seam versus spin thing, but also the batting is probably the tipping point, but actually Soti's arguably been more effective and the limited amounts of time that he's had to bat, but like he had a good innings the other day against India.
Yeah, and that's where I go back to Neesham. It's like he's selected for his bowling because the one thing that is elite from Jimmy Neesham is his wicket-taking efficiency. But as you said, Jimmy Neesham has been selected over Soti, I think, because he adds a little bit more batting. I also think maybe the matchup with Afghanistan, you want to hit the deck bowler, Jimmy Neesham. Maybe Afghanistan are very comfortable against the leggies, that type of stuff. And this Blackcaps squad does have optionality, as the Americans like to say. There's plenty of options in this squad. So it was a weird situation where I was thinking, because Jimmy Neesham, he's selected for his bowling, but maybe he's selected for his batting as well. Either way, I think Jimmy Neesham's got a test century.
Yeah, at least one.
He's got two. He's averaging, not anymore because he hasn't played test cricket for a while. He has a test average of 33.7. Mitchell Santner has a test batting average of 25.8. So it's just a weird situation where, because if you think about what style of batters they are, what style of batter is Jimmy Neesham? He's a boundary hitter. He's a big hitter. What style of batter is Mitchell Santner? We've always thought Mitchell Santner was a really good long form batter. And now we're in a situation where Mitchell Santner's batting ahead of Jimmy Neesham in a T20 World Cup, and all of his recent performances are so much better than Jimmy Neesham and Michael Bracewell and Rachin Ravindra, let alone anyone else, that it's crazy. So shout out to Mitchell Santner's batting. I sees ya. He didn't take a wicket, but as I said, most economical bowler and the quickest scorer in the whole game, not just for New Zealand.
Yeah, that is some good efficient stuff. Maybe he's the new strike rate king, or I guess you can't say strike rates because he didn't take a wicket, but the run rate king maybe. Were you worried at any point during that run chase? Like, because 180 seemed like a big score, but I also think it's hard to make that judgment early in a tournament, especially like the Blackcaps have just played 5 games in India, I think in different cities every time. In every one of those games, the team batting first scored over 200, one time got over 270, except for once when the Blackcaps were bowled out for bowled out restricted, I can't remember if they're bowled out or not, for 150 odd, and India chased it down in 10 overs, which meant they were on pace to score 300 if they'd been able to bat a full capacity there. This is in another city again, but it's like everywhere they go in India at the moment, there seems to just be you expect these sort of, dry, dusty, spinner-friendly wickets. They are more spinner-friendly than they are seam-friendly, but like they're not spinning that much. Mostly what they are is flat. And there have been high scores in other games as well early on in this tournament, accounting for you get some of the bigger teams against the lesser teams early on. So sometimes, someone bats first and gets, I think South Africa kept UAE or whatever it was yesterday we're playing UAE tonight, to 100 odd or something like that. But it does seem like Oman it does seem like it's probably going to be a very high score. Well, maybe not very high score because there's too much chat about 300s at the moment. It's like I'm less interested in what the ceiling is for innings and more like what the kind of baseline is. And I think the baseline is probably looking like somewhere around 200, in which case keeping Afghanistan to 180 odd is pretty good. And arguably the difference between that and 200 was Mitchell Santner's overs. And I mean, the Blackcaps chased that down with 2 overs to spare. But there was a little, their second over was a little bit wobbly when Finn Allen gets out and then Rachin Ravindra gets out. Were you worried like during that chase, or did you sort of feel like we had the batting in stock to where one good partnership, which they then got from Phillips and Seifert, put them pretty much back in control?
I wasn't worried. Like, it's a tricky game, so there's tricky vibes throughout the whole game. I wasn't worried in the batting innings. I was more worried in the bowling innings.
I think that's about how I felt too.
Like, because it's a lot of Jimmy Neesham, Like, we're getting a lot of Jimmy Neesham in that game. As I said, he is a highly efficient wicket taker. I'm less cool with Jimmy Neesham bowling 3 or 4 overs, and because he's a bit wild, that's how he gets his wickets. But if he's not taking wickets, he can get tonked around a bit, and it's all right if he's bowling an over, maybe an over or two. But for that to happen, he needs to be batting high up the order, or someone else has to be bowling much better than him. And at various points, like, I don't know, like, will Matt Henry get smashed around at the end? Lockie Ferguson, Jacob Duffy, they can all get smashed around. Obviously, Ravindra and Phillips got tonked around a bit. So it was in that bowling innings where I was like, wait a minute, are we... Because obviously when Finn Allen and Rachin Ravindra get out, then you're going, wait a minute, this seems fairly familiar. I've been here once before and it sucked. Are we in that zone again? But that wasn't as hardcore as when we were bowling and Gulbadin was in and some of these Afghani batters were getting, going around. They were losing wickets, but they kept scoring runs. And you're thinking, okay, are we going to be chasing 220 against Afghanistan, who beat us in the last World Cup, same game, to start this World Cup? Like, are we going to have to try chase 220, 230, something like that? But Matt Henry finished the innings well, right? Like, these are little things where we know Matt Henry is an awesome T20 bowler now. Him and Jacob Duffy they have been two of the best seamers for the Blackcaps in T20 internationals. And Matt Henry fixed it up at the end of the innings. So when I saw the Blackcaps kind of tighten up at the end of their bowling innings to restrict Afghanistan for 182, I was feeling pretty good. And even after Allen and Ravindra got out, the thing about this batting lineup is, okay, the middle order and Seifert, like, they don't need to do too much. And they didn't do too much. Seifert did score 65. He is our best T20 batter. I was joking about Mitchell Santner, but Seifert's been leading the run scoring over a bigger period of time, specifically since the start of last year. So yeah, I can joke about Santner being our best T20 batter, but our actual best T20 batter is Tim Seifert. And like, this is... All teams have stacked batting units, like, it's not like, oh, the Blackcaps batting lineup is so much better than everyone else. But we got Phillips, Chapman, Mitchell, Santner. That's Daryl Mitchell and Mitchell Santner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we got Daryl Mitchell batting 6, I'm feeling all right, And like, so I wasn't really worried in the batting innings. There was a sketchy moment when Allen and Ravindra were dismissed, but this, like, this Blackcaps team, they're going to know their matchups. They're going to know the plans they want to have. They want to know, they're going to be able to adapt to the conditions, adapt to the bowler. Rahman finished with 2 wickets for 7.7. He took 2 wickets for 1 run, like in his first or second over. So they handled him pretty well throughout the rest of the innings. They handled Rashid Khan pretty well. Nabi pretty well. That's because of their planning, their preparation, the skills they have, and they got left and right combos throughout the whole order. So I wasn't really worried in the batting innings, but that's because of this batting lineup. And knowing what I know about Mitchell Santner, right? Because other people might be watching that innings, they don't know Mitchell Santner is one of our best T20 batters just straight up. I know that because I'm so deep in these mangroves that I've been talking about it for a while. And even if Santner gets out, I still think Jimmy Neesham can score 20 off 10. And that's all they had to do. Yes, they were chasing a bigger target, but Seifert got off to a good start. Phillips was doing what he does, so then dudes only need to score 25 off 20, 30 off 20, those type of knocks. But ultimately, well, not ultimately, because there's a lot happening. One thing I did love was Mitchell. 25 runs at a strike rate of 178.5. He hit 2 boundaries. 1-4-1-6. 10 of his 25 runs came from boundaries, and he still had a strike rate of 178. That's Blackcaps cricket, because he's running the singles. He's ticking it over. I don't know how many dot balls he faced, but it might have been 1 or 2.
That adds up to 15 runs off 12 balls, excluding his boundaries. So from his 1, 2s, and 3s, he got 15 off 12. So yeah, I don't think there would have been many dot balls.
These dudes, like, how many 2s did Seifert and Phillips run?
A lot.
Chapman's going to be pushing 2s. Mitchell doesn't look fast, but he loves patrolling the boundary outside of Test cricket when he's not at slip, and he's going to be pushing 2s with the bat as well. Mitchell Santner is going to be pushing 2s, and these are Blackcaps things. So as soon as you see like a couple 2s run, you know the Blackcaps are in a good spot, because the opposition, like, there's not many teams who are so drilled in with their fielding that they're stopping 2s. Every team should be in that zone, but there's not actually that many. Like, maybe New Zealand aren't even that good at stopping the 2s, but as far as exploiting opposition fielders, they do an excellent job at that, and they're always getting the 2s. And Mitchell's batting 6, which is slightly lower than, to me, I think he's batted top 5 for most of the T20 internationals over the past year. But that's the other thing about Blackcaps T20 cricket, kind of bigger picture. For T20 international series, New Zealand needs 20 to 25 players, because guys are going to be away on their T20 jobs, and New Zealand has to still be competitive, still put up a fight without those players. In those T20 series, T20 international series, not bilateral series, because again, why are we saying bilateral? It's just a series between 2 teams in the T20 format. In those T20 international series, Mitchell's going to be batting 3 or 4. Because Phillips is away, because Seifert's away, because Allen's away, because all these other things are happening. So it's important to note, like, I don't think we can really cling to roles that the Blackcaps have had in T20 international series, because there's just such a wide mix of players involved. Which is to say, I love this role for Daryl Mitchell. Yes, he could be a better number 4 than Glenn Phillips, or a better number 5 than Mark Chapman. But I think Daryl Mitchell is the best dude at hitting the first ball for six in New Zealand. So when he's batting six, he can hit the first ball for six or a boundary, and he can get a single. He can rotate the strike and score quickly. He can probably hit 4 boundaries in an over as well. And I do think it is a slightly different role for Daryl Mitchell, but in a strongest possible T20 unit, depending on your feelings about Ravindra, I love this role for Daryl Mitchell. And it seems like a Rob Walter thing, you know, it seems like a Walter Santner thing. And to be honest, it was highly effective in this game because, as you said, maybe the batting innings was a bit wobbly to some extent.
Well, 1 over, yeah.
But Daryl Mitchell's our best all-format batter. And he's batting 6. So if you lose 3 early wickets, you still got Daryl Mitchell. And as I said, he's our best all-format batter because he can do everything. And I've never seen a New Zealand batter be so capable of hitting a boundary off their first or second ball. And he can work it around, push your twos, push your ones. He can play 360. I think this is a great role for Daryl Mitchell.
Yeah, seam or spin as well. I mean, one of the ways he often hits that first ball for to the boundary is for those reverse sweeps off spinners when that happens to be a situation. He loves to hit the spinner's first ball of an over down the ground. So someone who tries to get out in front of the over, whatever the situation happens to be, you're always trying to get on top of the bowler, put him under pressure from ball one. And Rob Walter was asked about this, I saw in one of his media things, and that was something he said as well. It's like, it's not just that, yeah, he's got power and he can get the singles pretty much like on demand. So he can score big runs as a closer sort of role. But also, who would you rather have than Daryl Mitchell in a situation where you're 50 for 4 and you need to rebuild an innings without, in a T20, you can't just take 3 overs off and be like, we're going to put it out and get our eye in. You still got to score the runs. He's someone who can quite safely give you, 6 runs and over or something like that, just by working those singles, just by not feeling the pressure, by still being aggressive, but aggressive without being reckless. He's kind of the perfect man to rebuild an innings if we find ourselves in a situation like that as well. So it does feel like quite far down the batting order for him, but it's also like it's a T20, so everything is a little bit fluctuating, and even batting at 6, you're going to find yourself in roles where, like, in a variety of different roles required from you when you walk out to bat. And Daryl Mitchell is pretty good at all of those. Plus, I think Chapman maybe is better the higher up he bats. I think he's not as he's not as well rounded in terms of all the different varieties of what you might expect from someone batting at 6 or 7. And Phillips probably is, but also Phillips batting 4 gets him in earlier, and he is the kind of guy who, like Seifert, like Allen, can single-handedly win you the game. Like, there's an upside to having him in earlier because it gives him the opportunity to just smash a 50-ball 100 or something like that, which, yeah, he's not going to do that very often, but he is capable of doing that. And if you get him in early enough and sort of like offer him the opportunity, every now and then he might just win you the game all by himself. So I like that batting lineup. I like the balance of that batting lineup. I especially like Santner sneaking in ahead of Neesham as well. I think that is nicely reflective of how it should be, how the form and stuff goes. And then you still, I mean, you said this before, but you still got Jimmy Neesham then, who can come in at 8 and hit a couple of sixes in the last over of a game or something like that. That's something he's pretty good at, is he can hit from ball 1. Maybe not quite as 360 as Daryl Mitchell or Glenn Phillips, but close enough. When you get down that low in the order, all you need is just a bit of power, and he's certainly got that. Yeah, I like that batting lineup. That's probably another reason why I thought 180. Yeah, that's against the scene with Rashid Khan, I'd maybe be more comfortable if you kept that to 160. But I mean, he wasn't even really a problem during the batting innings. I thought they paced it extremely well. And to echo another point you made, like, contributions from a bunch of different guys as well. Everyone just sort of chipping in, no one having to go big, always staying like there or thereabouts of the run rate. There wasn't like big spikes in the like worm chart or anything like that. It was pretty steady and just a well organized well organized run chase based on a well organized batting lineup.
And like Phillips is a fascinating cricketer, obviously for a number of reasons, but I feel like he still needs a couple deliveries to just settle down. And his role in the test team is to bat aggressively down the order. But Phillips has always been a pure batter. Like, I wonder what his first class average is. Probably over 40 if we're being legitimate about his batting ability. First class batting average 39.88.
Oh.
One day batting average 37. T20 batting average 33. He's just an awesome batter. You can look at Glenn Phillips and think, oh, he's a slogger. Oh, he's a slugger. But if you compare his first-class record to Finn Allen's first-class record, they are so different, it's not even funny. And Glenn Phillips, I think he's batting 4 because like he salvaged the innings. He finished on 40-something, 42 off 25, strike rate of 168. But he came in after Ravindra got out. So he had to dig down and grind through a little tough patch there before exploding. And that's the thing. He can score so quickly that his strike rate will catch up at some point. So I think that's the best role for him. And as you've always said, you want your best batters facing the most deliveries. And if Glenn Phillips is facing 30 deliveries, 25 deliveries, he will score quickly. But you can't just view Glenn Phillips as a slugger. He's a batter. In the same way people
left-hand, right-handed.
Left-hand, right-hand, wicketkeeper, spinner. Do not forget that Glenn Phillips was bowling spin in his first seasons with Auckland. Right? He wasn't just a wicketkeeper there. But his batting is so good, and it always has been so good, that he can also adapt to that role. Like, to be honest, Daryl Mitchell's better at hitting a boundary off his first 2 deliveries than Glenn Phillips. And also, like, Glenn Phillips in that situation, he's the fastest dude on the field. He's probably the fastest dude in world cricket. So if you find yourself losing a few early wickets or that type of situation, Phillips is going to be torture by 2s. And then the pressure goes back on the fielding team. That's how New Zealand got back into the batting innings. And that's the role Phillips is there. So it just feels like everyone's in their right role, you know?
Yeah, I'm open to the idea of Chapman and Ravindra swapping, where Ravindra gets to come in later and just be like stroke player from ball 1, take your risks, blah, 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 but not having the same pressure of maybe being expected to bat a bit more time as a number 3 might. But, I mean, we talked a lot about him leading up to this World Cup, and the thing with that is if he isn't scoring runs, at least he doesn't hang around at a low strike rate. Like, he might get out early, but he will try to score runs that whole time. He won't get out. He's not going to take up, 5 runs of 8 deliveries or something and then get out. He's going to score 10 off 6 or something like that. He's going to score quickly, even if he gets out cheaply. So, yeah, a lot of talent runs deep in that order.
One way of looking at this batting lineup is top 3, then the middle order. So it's putting Ravindra with Seifert and Allen, I think, is useful for sanity's sake. And then you've got your middle order quartet, Phillips, Chapman, Mitchell, Santner. Again, Daryl Mitchell, Santner. So you only need one, maybe two of that top three to score to go well. Seifert, Allen, Ravindra. Then you got that middle order, who I'm feeling pretty good about. And part of feeling good about that middle order is in this recent cycle of T20 games since start of October, Chapman, Santner, Phillips, and Mitchell all have strike rates over 150 in that period. Mitchell's averaging 31.5, Chapman's averaging 25.6, Santner's averaging 47, Phillips is averaging 36.3. So Ravindra's still in a weird spot, but if our biggest concerning zone in this T20 batting unit is Rachin Ravindra, I think we're in a pretty healthy position. And again, I don't necessarily think Rachin Ravindra needs to do a whole lot to just be doing his job for the Blackcaps and New Zealand. And we'll see what the bowling stuff happens. You could have Neesham, you could have Sodhi and Neesham, you could have Michael Bracewell ahead of Jimmy Neesham, depending on the matchups as well. Obviously, we've got Devon Conway covering the top order, Kyle Jamieson offering a bit more seam, and someone else. Bracewell, Conway, Jamieson. There's one player. And Sodhi. And of course, Ben Sears is on a holiday. So good stuff there.
All expenses paid.
Yeah. Next game, UAE tonight. So hopefully that's a win. And again, no, just don't really want too many tricky games. Just feels a lot better that way. Let's get a bit of mindfulness.
Alrighty, Aristotle. We're going ancient Greek today. Aristotle. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all.
No one wants to educate their heart, though, right?
No one does. Except I think there are probably people who have educated their heart at the expense of their mind, like the vice versa version. Is all heart and no mind probably isn't much better. I would say a little bit better, because at least you have consideration for other people within your worldview, if that's the case. But clearly, a little bit of balance, a little bit of yin yang between the two of them, between the heart and the mind, is probably the best place to be.
And it, like, for some reason, a lot of these mindfulness, I just kind of focus in on one thing there, and the term education. Because when you think educating, I'm educating myself, you're only viewing it through the lens of I'm educating my mind. I'm trying to gain information. I'm trying to get smarter. I'm trying to expand my mind. I'm trying to learn new things. So no one, and myself included, kinda, wants to educate their heart and soul, which is who you really are. So maybe we should learn a bit more about our heart and soul and who we really are, how we treat other people and those type of things, because that's just as important an education as learning all the goofy shit that you need to learn to be part of this world, apparently.
The facts and the figures. It's like I don't know if I really trust a person who only reads non-fiction books or only watches documentaries, you know? I sort of feel like you got to get the I'm the opposite. I mostly only read fiction and watch narrative movies, but you got to chip in with you got to chip in with a bit of both. But there is a certain type of, I guess, cold-hearted person, maybe, or that's the consequence of it, who is only interested in the stuff that is like factual and realistic, because that's pragmatic and that's worldly and whatever. And then I think you're just not a well-rounded person if that's your perspective that you're coming at. You got to get a bit of the you got to get a bit of both. I hate it when people dismiss like fictional art as being lesser than for that reason, because it might not be based on like factual truth, but it's based in I guess the truth of the heart. It's emotional truth, which is kind of, that's how you learn about humanity and the human spirit and those kind of things. It's like you don't get that from reading just the facts and figures. I think there's probably quite a few people that could learn that, but then at the same time, I'm sure I could benefit from reading a few more of the facts and figures as well.
I didn't really think of it, but the emotions, like no one's really educating themselves on emotions either, because you look at how many people don't have any emotional awareness or awareness of their own emotions or control of their emotions. Maybe instead of learning some science, how about you just learn how you're feeling? That might help you as well, because how you're feeling determines a lot about what you're doing. And what we're doing
don't have to be able to describe it.
What we're doing right now is checking in with the Ford Trophy. Games are being played today, Tuesday, the 10th of February. Down in somewhere, can't see the location, Otago hosting Canterbury somewhere. They are yet to start, so we can't talk about anything there. Northern Districts are hosting Central Districts in Hamilton with an opening pair of Kartene Clark and Scott Kugelheim. That's the opening batting pair, because Kartene Clark's not bowling, but Scott Kugelheim is opening the batting. That's pretty cool. Northern Districts have Snehith Reddy back in their team. There is also this, like, the Under-19 World Cup happened, and I don't care, because there's never, it's like the old Warriors Under-20s stuff. Like, there was no connection between Warriors Under-20s and NRL success. Everyone thought there might be, but when, like, the Warriors in the Under-20s were very successful over the course of a decade, and aside from a few blips, that was one of the worst eras of Warriors in the NRL. There is no correlation between under-19 cricket and the stuff we talk about, which is relevant for New Zealand because we don't really do that good at under-19 cricket. And nor should we. Who cares? We're good at cricket. We're good at the cricket that matters, and that's irrelevant because a lot of the under-19 players are playing domestic cricket. They just couldn't put it together overseas for an international tournament where some nations are far more invested in under-19 success. And that's right, good for them, but we're better at cricket than they are per capita, kg for kg. And Snehith Reddy, I think he's been to 2 under-19 World Cups, and he is part of this ND team today. He's already played domestic cricket this season. He's batting down the order, no Brett Hampton, so I think that's why Scott Kugelheim's opening the batting. And they're playing CD. CD do have a bit of Toby Finlay coming back into their team. Jaden Lennox has been fantastic for a while now, not just those ODIs against India. He was good before that this summer, and he's been very good since then. Dean Foxcroft has been awesome. I'm also loving Zach Gibson, the seamer for Northern Districts. And we also have Auckland hosting Wellington in Auckland. Fairly similar Auckland team, no dramas. Obviously, Bevan Jacobs is back in the domestic circuit. Wellington, Oscar Jackson's been playing after the Super Smash. He's playing Ford Trophy. And Nathan Smith's not doing that great. Don't know if he's got a wicket since coming back from injury. And I think I am open to Nathan Smith just dipping backwards a wee bit. He's played 2 Ford Trophy games before this, and he doesn't have a wicket. And he's been very injured over the last year. He got injured during the Test series versus Zimbabwe, came back from injury, was playing a few games, ODIs, gets injured in the West Indies Test series. And just checking here, Nathan Smith, in his last 10 games, he's got wickets in 3 of them. So he's got 7 games without a wicket in his last 10 games. And this is a dude who was first 11 for the ODI team because he was in the Champions Trophy first 11. For a while there, before his injuries, he was first 11 in the Test team as well. So this time last year, basically, he was a first 11 ODI player, first 11 Test player. Neither of those are the case right now. And now he's also not necessarily dominating domestic cricket when some other dudes are, like Tom Latham. What's he doing? Back-to-back centuries. That's just one example of the dudes who are dominating domestic cricket. Jaden Lennox has a little cup of tea with the Blackcaps, back dominating domestic cricket. I mean, shit, Scott Kugelein's dominating domestic cricket. Bevan Jacobs dominates domestic cricket. 5 50s in a row in Super Smash. It's not quite happening for Nathan Smith, and even with all the injuries to bowlers, like just straight up, Jacob Duffy is definitely ahead of Nathan Smith for sure. He's basically our second best all format seamer behind Matt Henry. We've seen Michael Ray do a job for the Test team. I don't know if he played ODIs against India, but he's going to be around that ODI group as well because he's a good ODI bowler. One-day bowler, sorry. And I just don't know if Nathan Smith's in that tippy-top tier right now. Having been injured, but also not playing to the best of his ability.
Well, that's like when Blair Tickner got a chance with the Blackcaps during the summer. When Michael Ray got a chance with the Blackcaps, the thing we were talking about on this podcast was about how like we're dipping 7, 8, 9, 10 in the depth charts for seamers here. Like that runs deep because those guys are coming in from the bottom, working their way out from the outside the top 10 into the top 10, and did really well. If you're one of the guys who were in the top 10 and you have been injured a lot, therefore unavailable, and then also when you have played, you haven't done that much. And Nathan Smith also just certainly in the Test scene hasn't I'm pretty sure his average was around about like 40 odd. He's taken some wickets, but it's not like he's gotten a haul at any point like that. That's the other aspect of having all this depth. It's like, yes, you can call upon your 10th best seamer and he can come in and do something pretty decent in international cricket. But then also, like, once he's done that, he doesn't want to stay as the 10th best seamer. He wants to move up that list. And if you got a guy higher up who is not performing, well, that's what that looks like. That guy swaps with the other fella, and then we've had a little bit of a reshuffle. So you actually Smith's had a lot of international opportunities at this point. Not an abundance of them, but comparative to the other guys he's competing with, and has probably, without doing badly, just hasn't done as much. If you only do okay and the other guy does great, well, unfortunately, you're not going to be the one who gets picked next game when you're both available.
As I often say about the Blackcaps, what Nathan Smith had done would have been good enough for him to be a first 11 Blackcap for the next 5 years 10 years ago. But as you laid out there's so much depth, so many good performers that you need to step up straight away. But soon, someone else will drop out of form, and then Nathan Smith will be back in the mix. At some point, Will O'Rourke will be back in the mix, and then Ben Sears is playing formats and stuff like that. So that's why we need so many seamers capable of playing for the Blackcaps. I do have the Canterbury and Otago squads here. Lockie Harper's someone to watch out for Canterbury because he's taken his Super Smash form into Ford Trophy. He's doing a good job there. Otherwise, it's a very settled Canterbury group. They are doing some funky stuff with the wicket keeping because they got Tom Latham and Mitch Hay in the team together. I think Super Smash Mitch Hay was the wicket keeper. And now for a trophy, it's Tom Latham as the wicketkeeper. So Not that it means anything, it just means we've got a lot of good wicket keepers around Aotearoa. And we'll check in with Otago. They have a dude by the name of Hugo Bogue, another player from the under-19 team. He smashes it. So if we do get a game between Otago and Canterbury and Hugo Bogue is part of their first 11, I'm going to be fascinated to track him as well as just the rest of the season, because he's another player from the deep south. Oh, they got Mason Clark as well. Like, these dudes are from the Queenstown area, and I don't know if that's exactly where Hugo Bogue's from. I think Mason Clark's from the Queenstown area. So those are some deep south regions. Again, we've got to use Otago usually for Otago cricket, even though that hasn't really caught on just yet. But Hugo Bogue, everything I've seen about him, he smashes it. Opening batter, very aggressive, very skillful, just in tune with all the other youngsters around Aotearoa on the rise in Kiwi cricket. They've also got Thomas O'Connor as a lefty seamer, and that's something I'll just hold fire until we get to some rugby league, because the Blackcaps pipeline does not have a lefty swinger. Lefty seamer bowling in swing to right-handers, outswing to left-handers. We got Ben Lister moving the ball away from right-handers. Like, Ray Toole isn't necessarily a super swinger. He's a good lefty, though. That's all right for the Blackcaps because you can balance it out with Zach Folks bowling outswing to left-handers. You got Will O'Rourke who bowls outswing to left-handers. Obviously, in-swing to right-handers. Michael Ray has shown a bunch of times moving the ball into right-handers away from lefties. Kyle Jamieson can move the ball into right-handers and away from right-handers. So we don't have a lefty swinger like a Trent Boult, but we do have that skill set in a different style. But I do think Thomas O'Connor is someone to watch out for as a lefty swinger at a younger age bracket on the rise. HBJ Shield is returned over the weekend, and I mean, if you haven't caught the memo, young folks are pretty good at cricket. Because we got 19-year-old Emma McLeod, leading run scorer in the HBJ Shield. 465 runs, averaging 66.4. 1 century, 350. Shout out to Kate Anderson. She's the only player with 2 centuries. In HBJ Shield, she scored a century for Canterbury this weekend, but Canterbury kind of sucks, so good stuff there. Kate Anderson, I think she's gone up to 4th maybe for the most centuries for Canterbury in one-day cricket. Maddie Green hit a century as well. She has now hit the most centuries for Auckland in one-day cricket. But Emma McLeod's the leading run scorer, and she's the only batter with 400 runs or more. And I looked, last season she was scoring at 72 strike rate. This season she's up to 82 strike rate. So she just keeps getting better and better and better. And Kate Pedersen's also a good batter for CD to watch out for. Her and Emma McLeod are the only batters with 50-plus scores in HBJ Shield this season. Hannah Francis had a knocker 92. Isla McKenzie also had a 50-plus score. Hannah Francis is 20 years old. And Isla McKenzie is 18 years old, according to Cricinfo. So those two were really good this weekend for Wellington, but not quite as good as Jessica and Zara Jetley, who I think are leading run scorers for Wellington and leading wicket takers, having also been key players in the Super Smash Championship. And what else? I also really enjoy Kaylee Knight, someone we saw a lot of during the Super Smash. Shout out to Emma Black, leading wicket taker, tied with Zara Jetley. Emma Black leading wicket taker for Otago in both competitions this season. But Kaylee Knight's a seamer to watch out for. She's got 15 wickets at an average of 14.2 in the HBJ Shield. We saw how good her batting was in the Super Smash. She seems to be one of the faster bowlers in Aotearoa, and I think she'll be playing for the White Ferns very soon. I did do a roundup of all the HBJ Shield stats, notes, nuggets on our website, theniche-case.com. Same thing will be there for Ford Trophy tomorrow as well. And of course, you can read about lots of Kiwi cricket stuff on our website, theniche-case.com, on our Substack, theniche-case.substack.com. And Thursdays, we do our bonus podcast for the Patreon whānau. Big thanks to everyone on Patreon supporting our work and helping us do what we love to do. Thursday, be chatting Ford Trophy. We'll be chatting Blackcaps, and we'll be chatting a lot of other Kiwi sports stuff as well. We record our big podcast on a Tuesday, and then we come back on a Thursday for a bit extra for the Patreon whānau, and also for the paid Substack subscribers. You get a few things, like you can read a bit more as a paid Substack subscriber. Patreon, you get the full newsletter, you get the podcast as well. So you do get a few extra thingy-majigs, but ultimately it's just the best way to support our work. So if you do appreciate what we're doing, please consider joining the Patreon whānau or signing up to our Substack and upgrading to a paid subscription, because it's very useful in helping us do this. And I mean, there's a lot of Super Bowl coverage yesterday from the Kiwi media. So you're not getting any HBJ Shield, you're not getting any Ford Trophy. Those type of things aren't appearing in other Kiwi media outlets. So help us out, will you? Can the Breakers make the NBL finals, you reckon?
It's still, I thought they were out after they lost on Saturday or Sunday, whichever it was, but they're actually still mathematically possible. They need to win both of their games, and they need, I think it's Tasmania, to lose both of their games. Of course, if they had simply beaten Tasmania when they played them a couple of weeks ago, this would all sound very, very different. But it doesn't, so the Breakers have got to rely on other results, and, well, basically there's 4 games that they need to all go in the direction that benefits them, and they're away to Adelaide, top of the table, in their next game. So I mean, they did run Adelaide very close last time they played them, so they almost got that one. I don't know if they can do that away against the 36ers as they look to wrap up the top seed heading into finals, but it is still mathematically possible that the Breakers could get to 6th. No higher than that. That would mean still a play-in, whatever you call it, play-in game to, a play-in game to stay in, and then they'd have to win the next play-in to get into the semi-finals. So even if they make it, I don't think they're going very far. Certainly not with, Sam Menenga's out for the season, but also Rob Baker's been missing games recently. Parker Jackson Cartwright thought it was a good idea to get ejected from a game a couple of fixtures ago. So I'm not seeing it as a possibility, but it is mathematically still feasible for at least a few more days. But they do have the Ignite Cup final, which I think they qualified for. I can't remember who they're playing. Southeast Melbourne, I think, someone like that. So there is a chance of winning silverware, and there's a nice little paycheck in that for the, a bonus for the players if they win that. There is a chance of winning the in-season cup. For what that's worth, it would be, it's better than not winning the in-season cup. I think they'd rather get into top 6, but well, maybe they'll still do both. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a miracle over the next couple of weeks. Peter Coppin probably not coaching for his job, because I think there's enough evidence there after a couple of seasons, but technically he is on an expiring contract with a couple of games left to try and get this team in the top. Few other players as well, you might say that about too, because I would imagine they will want to reshape the playing roster at least a little bit. They won't have Kareem Lopez next season, for example, so that's automatically going to require something a little different. So a few of these players as well are playing for their next jobs too. So there's a bit on the line, but yeah, we'll see what they're able to muster, I guess.
I do have this story in front of me. They've appointed a boss man, Ting Troy Gujiu, and their quote is, "Our goal is to make the Breakers the top sporting brand in New Zealand. Good
All
luck."
right. Move over, All
Because,
Blacks.
no, who cares about the All Blacks? What about the Warriors? Crikey, Jack, you're not like the Warriors are in a different, like, just realm, let alone Auckland FC and also the Wellington Phoenix woman.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah,
But
Sarpreet Singh, maybe you'll change it. He moves him up a
um,
bit.
yeah, the Warriors are the biggest sports brand in Aotearoa, and it's not even close. And the Breakers have a lot of work to do to even come close to getting close to eventually being close to the Warriors. But who else are some notable Kiwis in the upper echelons of the NBL? You mentioned Adelaide. Is that where Flynn Cameron is?
That is where Flynn Cameron is probably the best of the best this season, considering yeah, the dudes at Melbourne, like Shaylee's back fit now. He's played a couple of games. Finn Delaney's been very good in a role there, but they're just such a sort of deep team. Um, those guys aren't like key players. I wouldn't say Flynn Cameron is a key player for Adelaide, but he is a starter and he is also a closer, which is not always the same distinction. Like he's out there in their crunch time lineup as well, and he's getting the ball in his hand a lot. He's having just a fantastic season. He's had some big scoring nights. He's had some big assists kind of thing. He's had moments with clutch shots, knocking down 3-pointers at a really high clip. He's been fantastic. It's been the breakthrough season that I think, or the step up season that I think people were hoping for, in which he was, I guess, betting on himself to produce by leaving Melbourne United for a starting gig somewhere else. So yeah, he's been fantastic. Second place is Sydney. They got no one. Third place is Southeast Melbourne. Don't think they've got anyone either. Perth does have Dante Russo-Nance on the sort of fringes of their squad, but he does usually get a little bit of something in there. And then Melbourne also looking like they're going to make the finals. Just mentioned the Flynn Delaney, the Shea Illy factor there. So it's probably Adelaide and Melbourne we're looking towards in the finals, if you're looking for a non-breakers team to follow with a decent Kiwi contingent there. One of the two. But yeah, Flynn Cameron he's been so impressive, and I can't wait to see him post this season, like after this big breakout season. I can't wait to see what he does for the Tall Blacks then, because it sort of feels like Corey Webster's been injured for a while. Shea Illy's not always available. There's a few guys who have been really not just like good top performers for them, but like the key leaders, the go-to guys for that team. And I suspect Flynn Cameron is at a point now in his career where he's ready to like step up and be that guy in big games for the Tall Blacks when that opportunity comes around, when he's next available and next able to do that for the national team. I'm very excited to see what that looks like.
How do you think Scott Kugelein's gone opening the batting?
If you're asking me, he's probably already out.
No.
Unless he had a 6 first ball.
Katsuni Clark's out. Scott Kugellein, 30 not out, strike rate of 158.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. He's finally found his spot.
Not bad was also how I felt watching Mason Barber, fullback for the North Queensland Cowboys in the NRL preseason footy. Very smooth operator. His highlight plays, he had a grubber that went into the in goal, and then he followed up with some good defense, and then he scored a nice try later on. Big step at the line, just cruising through the defense. And I think he's the best Kiwi NRL junior at the Cowboys. We've talked a bit about him. Australian schoolboys rep soon after moving to Australia, coming out of Northland, played for a bunch of clubs up north. I think he's from Kaikoui, and better learn about Mason Barber, because that dude will be playing a lot of Queensland Cup footy, I believe, as a fullback. And maybe he's so good that he gets a little NRL opportunity at some point as well. How did you feel about your Aotearoa Dragons, Setu 2, David Fale, Christian Tuipulotu in your Dragons preseason game?
Yeah, Setu too scored a nice try. I think he was the one, knowing that Christian Tuipulotu's already done, a fair bit at the NRL level for the Dragons, is probably already a starter on the wing. Setu 2 is probably the dude who stood out the most from that little mini influx of New Zealanders popping up at St George. So yeah, impressed. I like seeing the team with a winger with a bit of zip. It hasn't always been the case for this team in a little while.
I'd say Setu 2's zip is like his natural footy ability. It's all footy instincts. It's all natural skills and just knowing, like typical winger stuff in the NRL. Like there are some wingers, they aren't the fastest dudes, they aren't the biggest dudes, but they're always in the right place. They can always score a try. They can move their body to get the ball down, and they just do weird shit. And I think Setu 2 is that type of winger. I did notice that he was called a youngster at 27 years old, which is younger than you and I. So he's a youngster, but I don't know if he's like just... Yeah, I did chuckle at that.
There'll be younger players than him get talked about as veterans, so yeah.
He's been around for a while. He did have a little stint with the Dolphins as well before returning to the Warriors. So I do have the Dolphins story right here. That was midway through 2022. And Setu 2, he was awarded a training trial contract with the Dolphins NRL squad before returning to the Warriors. Speaking of the Warriors, we got some preseason footy, and I think there's going to be a New South Wales Cup trial game as well, which will be very interesting because I expect the New South Wales Cup team to be very young this year. Tangata the coach, David Tangata the coach of the Warriors New South Wales Cup team, basically said that. So I'm fascinated to see how that New South Wales Cup tier looks, especially when you add in the under-21 Jersey flag team, because maybe a lot of under-21s will be playing New South Wales Cup. And the Warriors lost both of their junior games this weekend against the Sea Eagles, under-17s and under-19s. As soon as the game was over, they published their report, and they had the excuses ready. There was a paragraph in the under-19 game report that said the Warriors had no preseason games, whereas the Sea Eagles had 3 preseason games before the start of the SG Ball Cup season. Which is pretty funny to have the excuses ready to go straight away. And it's also very true. And it's like, maybe like the logistics make sense, because if you're a Sydney SG Ball team, I mean, you just got to go down the road to get a preseason game, a trial game against another Sydney club. The Warriors are in a different country, so it's pretty hard to get preseason trial games against other SG Ball Cup teams. So it's true, and it's layered. It's true. It's a reminder that we shouldn't cling to the results at this level too much, because all sorts of shit like this is happening, let alone the fact that these are young men. These are genuine youngsters who, I mean, we all know youngsters are the most volatile characters going around. So you never know what type of stuff that is happening there. And also, if you want to win your first game, you might need some preseason footy. I was thinking back to the Blackcaps T20 World Cup stuff, because the last tournament, there was bad preparation. They sucked. This tournament, good preparation, won the first game. So maybe the Blackcaps, if they don't have maybe the England the Ashes preparation chat, England cricket need to come out and say, we had no warm-up fixtures. Australia had warm-up fixtures, so that's why we lost. It was good enough
Well,
to
I mean, speaking of organizations that normally have the excuses locked and loaded, I've heard that many times from the Wellington Phoenix. This and it's true. Like they're in a New Zealand team in an Australian competition, and there's only been 1 year when there's even been another New Zealand team they might have been able to play above like National League level in those preseason games without having to fund a trip to go, cross the ditch and play them, which I think they have done the last couple of years. But yeah, that is an inconvenience that other teams don't have to deal with in the A-League. It's the same in the NRL. It's the same through, I'm sure the Breakers have, well, the NBL at least has like a preseason tournament for all the teams, which I guess is helpful. But yeah, like those are legitimate excuses. But I agree, it is also funny when the excuses are, you're ready to go with them.
Yeah. An insight I can offer about the Warriors system having absorbed those junior games, and this is what I was saying about the Blackcaps, because the only other team that I can think about in New Zealand sport that has clearly defined roles throughout their pipeline are the Blackcaps and the Warriors. I can go through, I won't do it now, but I can go through every type of role that the Blackcaps need, and it's there throughout their system. The Warriors have they have styles of player they like, and it's there throughout their system. So the SG Ball team, one of their most impressive players was Tyson Hansen coming out of Rotorua as a small forward. He's a half who's also so rugged and ruthless, he plays in the middle. That's Aaron Clark at the NRL level. It was Keilani going at the New South Wales Cup level. So there's curiosity around how that role looks at the New South Wales Cup and under 21 level. Maybe Etuati Fukafuka can play that role if he's still with the Warriors, I don't know. Maybe Makaya Tafua plays that role with Sam Healy at dummy half. But you go through the Warriors system, they want small forwards. Albert Bouchin also plays that role in the SG Ball Cup team. Lennox Tuiloma. Sorry, I was thinking Lennox. Who's the boxer? Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis?
Yeah, Lennox Tuiloma. He can play that role as well, but he doesn't have the passing skills of a Tyson Hansen or an Albert Bouchin. The Warriors also love brutal, ruthless dummy halves from Aotearoa. So they got Makaya Tafua, Jacob Auloa, and the SG Ball dummy half was a Masio Tiatia coming out of Christchurch. Very physical. I think he played the whole game. And they are capable of smashing dudes without the footy. There's obviously so much else that goes into it, but they're dummy halves who love the contact, love the physicality. They're rough, they're rugged, they're ruthless. Who are the halves the Warriors have recruited from Australia? Sam Healy and Braylon Marsh, who are probably a bit more creative. They got a bit more attacking flair. So I think there's like, they've looked around Aotearoa and they've said, this is the type of dummy halves we have here, and we're going to build around those styles, and then we're going to bring in other styles of dummy halves, Sam Healy, Braylon Marsh, to the club, and they are a bit more crafty. They're a bit more similar to Wade Egan. But a Masio Tiatia is someone to watch out for because he is very physical, he is brutal. We didn't actually see Rene Frame play for the Warriors SG Ball Cup team. He's someone who might have a bit more creativity with that SG Ball team specifically. Wellington Phoenix women and Auckland FC men had wins over the weekend. Wellington Phoenix men had a loss. And they did sign Sarpreet Singh on loan. Like, it's cool, right? It's good for Sarpreet. We are the sons of the Sarpy, not sons of the Harpy, because we're pro Daenerys Targaryen. So we're sons of the Sarpy. It's good for him, getting some game time. it's. I was thinking like Wellington Phoenix. They've signed Bill Tuiloma and Sarpreet Singh mid-season, two very established All Whites, and along with everything that's happening in the women's program, so there's a bit of mana there as far as who is buying into the Wellington Phoenix as far as the players they're signing and stuff like that. So they're obviously doing something well. Like, it's just a bit underwhelming for a loan. Like, I want more Sarpreet Singh. And they're signing Sarpreet Singh on loan to help them do what? I don't know.
Get in the top six.
Well, they're second to last.
Yeah, but the table's ridiculous. Like, there's no team running away with it. There's no team falling behind everyone. You know, it's a couple of wins in a row. And they got like 10 games left or something. So there's definitely enough time to go squeeze in if they could be a form team going into knockout football, you know.
I get you. And I do like your note in the newsletter about Sarpreet Singh being he's very similar to Nazarene, and he's a better version of Nazarene, so that should help the Wellington Phoenix. I don't want to speak too much on Wellington Phoenix men, but I will say, I don't think Sarpreet Singh's like helping Mandrake James do his job as a defender. I don't think
Mandrake James wasn't helping Mandrake James do his job as a defender.
I don't think Sarpreet Singh is helping Bill Tuiloma not make mistakes, right? These are things we've talked a lot about over recent weeks. I don't think Sarpreet Singh is decluttering the overcomplicated coaching stuff that's happening. Sarpreet Singh will make the Wellington Phoenix better at football. I'm looking forward to his combinations with Eze. Hopefully he can be within a 10-kilometer radius of Eze, so Eze isn't isolated every time he gets the football, because
Eze won't pass though. So,
but
you got to be there for the rebound.
Who's he passing to? Like the Wellington Phoenix
pass anyway.
Again, who's he passing to? The Wellington Phoenix style of football is kick the ball to Eze and hope he does something. That's how they create their best chances. Which for an overcomplicated team is a very simplistic style of football. And yes, Eze, his passing isn't a strength, but I'd like to see another player nearby.
If only to draw defenders away from him, you know, even just something as simple as that, you know.
Just for the aesthetic of another yellow jersey in the frame. Because it never happens. They just kick it long to Eze and hope he can do something, which isn't the worst case because I do love Mr. Eze. But ultimately, I know what you're going to say, like Sarpreet Singh shouldn't be in the A-League and that's all good. The loan thing just underwhelmed me a little bit, and based on what I saw again, they played the victory, right? So they've had a loss and a draw recently. They've won one of their last 5 games.
Their last 2 has been, draw against Melbourne City and a loss to Melbourne Victory, both at home.
Like, there's a lot of just, like, kind of goofiness happening there. Including the goalkeepers. We've talked so much about the goalkeepers. I'm not convinced Kelly Hield's better than McCarron. Right? It's not one specific thing. It's just there's so many little goofy things happening there. And I love Sarpreet Singh. I'm very happy he's back with the Phoenix. But the loan situation was a little underwhelming to me. And I don't know if he's going to revitalize all the goofiness that's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, the loan situation is the only way they're going to get him, though. He's got 18 months left on his contract. He's 6 months into a 2-year contract in Serbia, which was going great up until a couple months ago when Dario Kalajic got sacked, and then the new coach came in and just changed everything up, and suddenly Sarpreet Singh went from being a starter every week to barely playing, which is why he's looking for game time leading into a World Cup, which is a bit of a unique circumstance because we saw this ahead of the Women's World Cup last time as well, where like Katie Bowen had a year in the A-League. Indy Riley had been playing in Denmark for a couple of years. She came back and had a year in the A-League. Betsy Hassett, that was the year that she played for the Wellington Phoenix. The only year in the last like 6 or 7 where she wasn't in Iceland. She came and played for the Wellington Phoenix leading up to the World Cup, specifically saying like, look, I wanted to be like close to it. I wanted to be, visible and playing at a decent level, alongside some players that would be in the national team, just all trying to get rhythm ahead of the World Cup. Sarpreet Singh's doing the same thing. Bill Tuiloma's doing the same thing. Little bit different in that Tuiloma's situation, like he's also later in his career and is ready to move back permanently. Sarpreet Singh at 26 probably isn't, which is why it's like it's got to be a loan. But you see how it goes after that. Maybe they sign him on another loan next year if he enjoys it enough. That's his decision. He's capable of playing higher, but like if he wants to stick in the A-League and be a key player for a team there, that's his career to do with what he wants, and he will be a star in the A-League. He's been a star, and since he was last a star in the A-League, like he was sort of like an emerging player then still, I guess. You wouldn't put him against the very best players at that time, but that was as a teenager. And since then, he's spent a couple of years in the Bayern Munich system. He's spent time training with Thomas Muller and whoever else. He's played in Portugal. He's played in Serbia. He's played many times for the All Whites. He is a first 11 player for the All Whites. Like he right now might be the best player in the A-League if he can get that kind of if he can fit into this team and find the kind of match fitness, match rhythm around that, and the production, of course. That is the ceiling for Sarpreet Singh in the A-League, is like MVP level stuff. 10 games to go in the season, joining it. Obviously, there's a few factors that are going to prohibit him from maybe getting there quite in this little stint. But there's no better player the Wellington Phoenix could have signed to try boost them up, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Maybe they can start winning games 4-3 instead of losing 3-2 with him. Because like you say, he's not going to fix the defense. He might give you a bit of that counter-pressing stuff. Giancarlo Italiano mentioned some of that in the press release. He talked about how he's like a player who can win the ball high up. He's quite busy off the ball in a way that I don't think maybe Always fans necessarily have given him enough credit for, but that's partly because of the way the Always play is a little bit different. He can score goals from outside the box. He's crafty, and like all these things he levels up in pretty much every way the Phoenix are trying to play. They do need to stop conceding stupid goals, though, or else it doesn't really matter, because otherwise you're asking too much. And for it to be Bill Tuiloma last week, Bill Tuiloma, good bounce back game in now. I thought he was fine. Yep. It's a decent enough performance. But as he fixes his errors, Mandrake and James decides to just not try for 90 minutes, which is crazy stuff for an import and the guy who's been like the leader of the back line. The way that the goal was scored, where he just like watches a guy run past him on an overlap and then cuts the ball back. He doesn't even put in a challenge to block the cross, which allows him to just put it across the 6-yard box for a goal. Like insane stuff there from an import defender you've signed to be one of the tone setters. The fact that it's veteran players doing this at the back for the Phoenix, the fact that it's different guys each week, like these are some very, very big question marks that they have to solve, regardless of whether Sarpreet Singh is going to come in and give them sort of, goal contributions here, there, and everywhere.
I am going to give some advice to everyone.
Okay.
I would be just keeping a lid on expectations with the Sarpi and the team. I appreciate what you've said. I would not be expecting Sarpreet Singh to be the MVP of the A-League and take the Wellington Phoenix into finals footy, which I think to me is very realistic, is very sensible, is very common sense, common sensibilities. It's just to keep a lid on expectations. And to be honest, if any Wellington Phoenix fan has expectations, maybe just chill out, because
don't ask for a single season savior kind of thing.
Because we've seen, the thing about the Phoenix is we've seen it in so many different we've seen so many different players have mishaps. We've seen so many different situations. And as I always say, there's a lot to like there, but somehow there's some sort of thing that just keeps going wrong. And I wanted to zone in on that counter-pressing thing. First of all, what's the difference between pressing and counter-pressing?
Counter-pressing is pressing immediately after you've lost the ball. So when you turn it over, like really gunning to win it straight back, rather than just like the opposite is you just drop into your shape and look to, okay, we've lost the ball, let's try sit back and absorb it, and then win the ball back when they make a mistake. It's sort of being proactive about within the first 5 seconds of a turnover, just rushing up and trying to win it straight back.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That clarification makes a whole lot more sense than your number 10s and your number 9s and your number 8s and all that stuff. I have not seen the Wellington Phoenix press or counter-press to the same quality of the Wellington Phoenix women or Auckland FC. I haven't even seen it as like a identity marker. So I find it a bit weird that Chiefy, he loves Sarpreet and Sarpreet's counter-pressing. Because it's cool. That's fine. That maybe Sarpreet Singh is excellent at that. Wellington Phoenix have not shown themselves to be... Let's just use Auckland FC and Wellington Phoenix women as the markers there, as the comparisons. They're the worst pressing team. They're the worst defensive team of those three. They're the worst
That might be why
counter-pressing.
he likes the skill set so much, because none of his current players can do it.
Yeah.
Although I will say, I think they're very good at it in the sort of like Nagasawa, Rufa, midfield congested areas. But Sarpreet Singh doesn't play in those areas, which is why it's sort of...
Yeah,
I guess that's the idea, is it's expanding it, maybe, but I don't know.
But maybe it's less about the players and more about the coach. Because Auckland FC, their defense is an identity. They are one of the best A-League teams based on what they do without the ball. And that's happened for 1.5 seasons under Steve Corica, who I don't know much about him as a footballer other than him being a glamour player at Sydney FC. I don't know if he was Louis Verstrada for Sydney FC, but as a coach, he loves defense, along with coaching guru Danny Hay. And also, of course, the best goalkeeping coach in the world, whatever his name is, Mr. Gould, Phil Gould. Steve Corica, his team is good based on their defense. Even more so this season because they suck at scoring goals, thanks to Sam Cosgrove, who scores goals, but could also have scored a hat-trick in that game against whoever they played on the weekend. Because I literally watched him do a header over the crossbar and have a whiff at a ball coming at his feet, but he scored a goal. So everyone loves Sam Cosgrove, but I don't think Sam Cosgrove's ever scoring a hat-trick for Auckland FC. Maybe he has already. I don't think so.
No.
Right, so to me, Auckland FC, their identity is defense. What they do without the ball. You got Verstrada, all the dudes in their team work hard to get the ball back. Exact same thing for Wellington Phoenix women. Maybe just with a bit more attacking impetus. But you still need to score goals. So Auckland FC, they still score enough goals. But to me, they are both excellent A-League teams based on their defense. And that starts with coaching. Because the coaches get players to do the defensive work. We can say maybe Bev Priestman recruited a player to do defensive work. Maybe Steve Corica recruited someone. Obviously, he recruited Verstrada, but he didn't sign Lockie Brook based on his counter-pressing. What? He got him to do counter-pressing. He got him to do pressing. He got him to do the defensive work.
I don't think he does a lot of it, but he does some, sure. He does enough.
Well, he does enough to be...
I think it's partly why, another reason why he's better in the middle as well, is because there's a bit less on that. But the way that Auckland FC set up, their wingers have to tuck in and do that work.
My point here is that it starts with the coach. And you can have it, you might like a player for his counter-pressing, but does your team do any pressing? Do they do any counter pressing? Yes. There might be little patches on the field because that's Rufa, right? Rufa is, on a good day, he's the Kiwi Verstrada. On a bad day, he's like Verstrada mediocre. He's the A-League Verstrada, even though the Verstrada's he's in the A. You get my drift here.
Yeah. The local.
Yeah, the local. He hasn't actually played outside the A-League. So he's doing the same job, but he can't get out of the A-League. And I love Alex Rufa. I'm waffling around here, but the other teams have a clear defensive identity that the Wellington Phoenix do not have. So I find it a bit strange that the coach, instead of coaching his players to do defensive work and maybe doing some more coaching on the defensive work of Mandrake James, because like you, I have loved Bill Tuiloma's passing. As a passing aficionado, Tuiloma has just it's magical. Don't necessarily know if Mandrake and Bill Tuiloma is the best defensive centre-back pairing. They're not a pair because it's the back three with Hughes and all that bullcacker. But I don't think they're that great defensively. So maybe we're seeing, it's like, I'm not seeing, to me, it's about the coaching. And you can have players who have the skill set or whatever, but Bev Priestman is getting every single Wellington Phoenix women's player doing their job defensively to the highest order. She's got a 17-year-old bullying people. She's got players just ripping into tackles, pushing players off the ball. But yeah, cool, you can be good at counter-pressing. Can you push someone off the ball? Can you dominate a collision? That's what Bev Priestman has done, and we've seen it in a season and a half with Auckland FC and Steve Corica. You catch my drift here?
Yeah, it's not it doesn't feel like a baseline as much with the Phoenix men, where everything else can stem from this. It's a bit more of a I don't know, they feel like they built their team out of their possessions, and it's maybe a more brittle way, a more brittle foundation to have, because it's more vulnerable to just different opponents, different styles of opponents. It's also just if midfielder has a bad day, well, then I guess that's the same with your defensive thing, though. If someone doesn't pull their shit, but I mean, well, here's a coaching conundrum. I don't know, challenged observation to be made in the future for Italiano, because if that is I don't know, it was the Mandrake James performance on the weekend that was mentioned after about 20 minutes on commentary, how it felt like he wasn't, and I was already thinking the same thing myself, so that's why I remember it, because I remember being yeah, that's right, Spoonley. I was thinking, you've read my mind there, because I remember noticing when they get the ball, normally you want your back three to expand a bit. You've got the ball, they're not pressing you, your centre back stepping up a little bit. You want your other centre backs to push, pretty close to the sideline to give you more room, stretch out there for defensive shape a little bit. Also allow your wing backs to push higher because you got someone else covering those areas. Just to expand the passing lanes that are available to you. And James wasn't doing that in the opening 20 minutes of the game, which made me wonder, maybe this is just a tactical thing. Maybe Chivi said, no, stay compact because we're worried about losing the ball and getting countered, something like that. But it was mentioned at that point, and I'd noticed it. And then you have that moment later on after, I can't really remember that many effort plays through that, but then you had that goal, that last goal where they, he was so much to blame for it in inexcusable ways. You can't not even be trying to close down a crosser in the penalty area who's just trying to square it for what's going to be a fairly simple goal otherwise. You just can't do. And it's notable that he was substituted straight after that. The next opportunity, he was one of the guys that's off. So let's say what I will be looking for this weekend is, I wonder if Chiefy's brave enough to drop him after that. and send a statement and be like, these mistakes, we've got other guys who have had decent games throughout. Like he loves Lucas Kelly-Hield, he loves Matt Sheridan. He is not going to be afraid to put those guys in the starting lineup because he's been doing it all season up until Bill Tuiloma arrived. Would he be willing to drop an import who just had an absolute shocker and borderline cost you the game after that for effort reasons as well? Whereas Tuiloma's mistake the week before was just like, it wasn't him not trying, it was just him being dumb for a second and making an error, like it's an accidental type mistake. But it wasn't a lack of input. It was I wonder. I wonder if he would do that, and I kind of think he should, because if you can show your team that their defensive standards apply to your main import defender as well as everyone else, that might be the type of lesson that gets through to everyone else. If you don't, then I don't know that we see a Phoenix team that stops making these errors the rest of the way.
It would be harsh for me to say what defensive standards. I think they have much lower defensive standards than the women's team and Auckland FC is a nice way to round it out. And like, you can drop Mandraker, it's not changing how you're winning the ball. It's not changing the defensive focus and energy. Like, you can drop Mandraker, you can put Sarpreet Singh in that team. Nothing's changing. Yes, Sarpreet Singh might win a couple of turnovers and he might be a counter-presser and all this stuff. You're not dominating defensively. So, and again, Chiefy overcomplicates things. So he could be dropping Mandraker, McCarron could be back in and all this crazy stuff happening. But they probably won't make the finals without some sort of improvement defensively. And that is what the other two, like, it's nice for me because that's what the other two teams are so good at. And there's two teams who are doing really well in the A-League, and there's one team who's not doing very well in the A-League. Like, literally, what are the women? Are they second?
Briefly first, but then Melbourne City played, so they're second, but they have a game in hand on the team above them.
So Phoenix women are second, Auckland FC is second, Phoenix men are second to last. Yes, anything can happen in the A-League. It's the best football competition in the world. That's all honkadory. The two teams that are second prioritize defense. It's not just they have good defensive players, they have a structure, and everything about their style of football, not everything, but they have defensive foundations. Defense is part of their identity. The team that's second to last does not. And I don't think that's a coincidence. The two teams that are second, the Wellington Phoenix women are far more entertaining than Auckland FC. The Wellington Phoenix women are far more watchable than Auckland FC. And if you are a sports fan who is still caught in this old school idea, I can only watch men's sport. It's the highest level of sport, men's football. I'm a football fan, I can only watch Manchester United. I can't watch any other football because I got to watch the highest level of football and all this crazy jibber jabber. Do yourself a favour and watch the Wellington Phoenix women. If you're any type of football fan in Aotearoa and you're like, oh, Auckland FC, they're really good in the A-League, first and second, and the biggest brand in New Zealand except for the Breakers and all this stuff, cool. It's far more fun watching the Wellington Phoenix women. It's far more entertaining, with the ball, without the ball, the vibes. Everything is superior right now for the Wellington Phoenix women compared to the men, but also compared to Auckland FC. Auckland FC is a bit too defensive in the sense that they, like, it's tough to watch them moving forward.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because they bounce back to winning ways on the weekend and I kind of felt just as frustrated by them
Yeah.
as I did in the previous weeks.
And, like, I gotta big up my man Cosgrove because he actually did something very impressive. Like he missed the like maybe three, four other
Tap
goals.
in from 3 yards out.
Yeah.
That's his range.
But there was a moment like Jesse Randall when he did that burst down the left and he kind of did the old flick with his heel and that was awesome. But then he couldn't score the goal. I think he hit the side netting or something.
That could be describing a few Jesse Randall moments this
Yeah.
season, but
But because he burst forward, Cosgrove went back into that left midfield position.
yeah.
And so I've seen Cosgrove burst back to be one of three defenders in a counter attack. And I've seen him do the defensive work. So I do want to big up Cosgrove because he does do the defensive work. And that's why he's in the team. And it shows you the importance of those wide players in their defensive shape. Because if Randall's not there, you don't have your left midfielder in the defensive structure. And I'm pretty sure Corica would tell all of his players, we need those two players out wide. That seems something that is very important.
Yeah, it tells you just by that moment that the left midfield role has priority in the defensive shape.
What's the
over
right
a
as well?
striker. Or the right,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
in this instance, the left, but yeah,
Yep.
either way, the wide midfielders, they'd rather have someone there than have both your strikers, sort of thing.
Yep.
So that's a good lesson.
And anyone who's played sport, like Randall, he would have just told Cosgrove, bro, I'm buggered. Can you cover for me? Or maybe Cosgrove would have seen it and said, I got you, bro, don't worry. He works back, he gets there. I do feel you're about Rogerson and Marley Francois. I don't really know why Rogerson doesn't play as much. And I'd love to see way more Brimmer. Like,
Same. Both of those two.
I'm still underwhelmed by Mai. I don't really like. He's a good footballer because he can play in all those positions, but I don't really know if he's.
Well, you know what's baffling me about it, and this isn't any kind of, I can't offer an insight into this. It's just an observation. But when Guillermo Mai played his best stuff last season, right? It was sort of the understanding was that it's because that's when he was able to drop deep because Max Mata was playing as the target man up front. So he took over the sort of like, you're on the last man, you're jumping for the headers, those types of situations, so that Mai didn't have to do the sort of shouldering up against centre backs as much. He could drop deeper and be a bit more of an orchestrator. That was the understanding, right? So he played better with a pure striker alongside him or slightly in front of him, giving him a bit more freedom. Therefore, they wanted to sign a better version of Max Mata and Sam Cosgrove to do that. And in most of those ways we're talking about with what Mata does, Cosgrove is a better version. He's taller, he's stronger, he wins more of the headers. He doesn't make runs in behind, which I'm realizing is something that Mata does quite. He's not fast, but he will at least try to stretch the defense. If there's a counter attack, he will make a sprint in behind, whether he gets the ball or not. Cosgrove doesn't do any stretching. That's maybe another reason why he would tuck in at left. Like he sort of runs back faster than he runs forward. There's one very significant element there, and even something like Cosgrove's inefficiencies in front of goal. Well, Max Mata scored like 1 or 2 goals last season. He wasn't any less efficient, but he was really effective playing in that partnership with Guillermo Mai. So in signing a better version of that role, using an import spot on that role to get a big man striker for Mai to play off of, Guillermo Mai is so much worse. I'm not sure how that's happened or why it's happened or what the correlation is, but I just know that they wanted a Sam Cosgrove type player because in a smaller sample size, it worked really well in getting the best out of Guillermo Mai last season when they played that way. And this season, it is getting the worst out of him because he has been terrible in front of goal. He hit the woodwork twice in this game. He should have had a hat trick. Like Cosgrove should have had a hat trick. Guillermo Mai should have had a hat trick. Randall probably should have scored one as well. Like the fact they won 1-0, great bounce back game from Michael Veld, made one fantastic save in the first half. It's not in his situation, even though I can say, like, I thought it was a bit harsh for a guy who was doing, perfectly fine over the entirety of the season, a couple very bad weeks before he got dropped. But the fact is, I mean, I don't pick the team. Steve Corrigan picks the team. Steve Corrigan wants to win the A-League, so a slightly above average goalkeeper probably isn't good enough for what he wants. He wants the best goalkeeper. He wants a goalkeeper who's going to, save penalties and make massive saves and knock out games. Just being good enough after you've been dropped is not good enough. Like you have to go above and beyond and show the fans that you. Also, that was the thing. I think Jason Pine mentioned this. It was like after the criticism he got last week for going down the sheds and hiding his face and not hanging out and signing autographs and stuff. Apparently, he was the last player out there after that game. So he's made amends there, but also just having a game where it was like, yeah, he was one of the best players on the field in that one. He was instrumental in getting them the win. He had to have a performance like that to sort of shake up the reputation. So good from him. Good from the defensive unit, getting a clean sheet without Nando Pinecker in there. So still not their top, still another game without their top back four, but good defensive shift and really look like conceding that often. To be honest, it was they were very good, very efficient. Louis Verstraeta's awesome, but the attack was no better than it was in previous games. Every bit as wasteful, if not more wasteful. And that is how they've been dropping points in those other ones, is because they're going 1-0 up. They're not scoring the second goal. Then they're conceding, usually conceding late. And I mean, I had the stat in the newsletter, the way in which they were so good last season, late in halves. Last 15 minutes in stoppage time of first halves last season, they scored 16 goals and conceded 2. This year, they've scored 4 and conceded 5. We're a little over halfway through the season, so more or less double those. But I mean, the fact is plus 14 goal difference to -1. They're being outscored in those moments. Last 15 minutes of stoppage time of second halves. Last season, 17 goals scored, 9 against, +8. This season, only 2 scored, 4 against, -2. A couple of those coming recently and, turning draws into losses and wins into draws, Arguably the biggest strength of their team last year was how they finished those halves so emphatically, and now it's something that they're actually being beaten at. So,
yeah,
there's a few baffling things about this, and I don't feel like a 1-0 win over Sydney has actually solved problems other than just getting a bit of the relief of a win on the board again.
Has there been a hat trick for Auckland FC?
Logan Rogerson in the derby last year got one.
Funny, that dude is not playing.
Yeah, the guy you can't get in the starting lineup anymore. Yeah,
because I don't think anyone else is scoring a hat trick if he's not playing, and they have the chances to score hat tricks. Like Cosgrove could add 3 hat tricks. He could add a hat tricks by now this season.
He could have 20 goals by now. Yeah.
Wellington Phoenix woman. What? How did you? I can't even remember that game. It was last
1-0 against Perth.
1-0 against Perth. They took over Matt Henry Stadium. Like, if you're a Phoenix fan, you should be supporting the woman. Like, how the women don't get bigger crowds than the men right now is bonkers to me, but they will be back at Jerry Collins Stadium, I believe, on Sunday afternoon. So that's where we will be getting the full Wellington Phoenix women's show. Yes. Otherwise known as Porirua Park, but we call it Jerry Collins Stadium from now on.
Because that's its name, yeah.
Any takeaways from that game? I can't even remember what happened. I just know that the Wellington Phoenix women are awesome, and they weren't necessarily awesome against Perth, but they got the job done. And, I mean, they've conceded 2 goals in their last 4 games, 3 goals in their last 5 games. Goes back to defense.
It does. It's been the foundation all season for them. And yeah, if you're a Wellington Phoenix fan who's only torturing yourself by going to the men's games and not going to the women's games, like that is one of those, throw back to the mindfulness, that is one of those you need to educate your heart kind of situations. You gotta be that. First of all, that women's team just deserves as big a crowds as they can get because they've won 4 games in a row. They went top of the table for a little bit there. They were awesome. They're fantastic. And the men's team just seems like it's punishing. So even when they play well, they still will concede 2 stupid goals and maybe not get the win. Like you gotta reward the hot hand there. You gotta reward the form team with your support if it comes to one or the other, or you go to both, and fair enough. Having said that, I don't actually feel like that game was very different to like everything we just said about the Auckland FC game. I feel like I could say a lot of the same stuff, almost all the same stuff about the Wellington Phoenix women, specifically in that game. Difference is that with Auckland FC, we're seeing patterns that are stretched out over a few months. This was just a one-off game for the Wellington Phoenix women, but like Sam Cosgrove scores a nice goal, could have scored a bunch of more. Well, that's how I felt about Michaela Woods in that game. It's like you scored the winning goal, crucial instance. You also missed like 3 or 4 other chances, and you made a bunch of like several times where you just took too many touches or you made the wrong pass. Like that, I would have said she had an awful game if she hadn't also scored the winner, but she scored the winner, so fair enough. That was the crucial moment. And they were wasteful in a way that they hadn't actually been as much lately. But like Auckland FC in their game, bailed out or at least, consolidated maybe by flawless defense. Like they even, if I said Sydney didn't really look like scoring very often, only a couple instances, Perth didn't look like scoring ever in that game. Like that was a clean sheet from start to finish. That was never really under threat. Essen, I remember her making a few like long shots straight at her, easy saves. They were as good defensively as they have been all season against a Perth team that's really struggling to score goals. So it was a good matchup for them. But like they have their dominant aspect of play, which is their defensive foundation, and they just like they cashed in on their biggest strength in that game and managed to find at least one moment where they could score a goal. And Michaela Woods does feel like a player who is inefficient, is a bit wasteful, but also gets like 6 chances every game. In the same way as Savitra Bandari could have said the same thing. It's like you can waste 5 of them if you're scoring one every game. And she has a goal contribution in every single game she's played, at least a goal or an assist in every game she's played for the Phoenix so far. I think she's up to like 5 appearances for something like that. Is second in the A-League for assists, and she's only been there a month. Where are we with Woodsy? Michaela Woods, 4 starts, 1 sub off the bench. I think 2 goals and 5 assists, or it might be 3, and I might not have updated that. I'm not sure, but insane production, and that's all she was like. That's all she needed to do to come in and replace Samba, and she's doing that beautifully, if a bit frustratingly at times.
You're a bit harsh. Like, I mean, they've been scoring goals for fun all season. Like,
well, you can say the same thing about Cosgrove, though. Like, he's one of the top scorers in the league.
No, but there's a clear difference. The Wellington Phoenix have scored goals. Auckland FC have struggled to score goals.
At Auckland FC, almost all of their goals come from the same 3 guys, and one of them hurt his back and went off injured in the first start. Wellington Phoenix women have been able to get goals from a variety of different players throughout the season, which is another reason why to be, impressed by what they're doing.
Wellington Phoenix women, 27 goals in 13 games. Auckland FC, 23 goals in 16 games. So they've scored more goals in fewer games. So I think you're being a bit harsh on the ladies there. Who's your most fun player across all 3 teams?
Well, I was only mentioning one, because Jale, Samba, Elliott, Vlock, Main, Nunn, and Woods, all of them have got multiple goals this season. Most fun player, well, aside from Pia Vlock.
It has to be Pia Vlock. It's only Pia Vlock.
Okay, yeah, there's no aside. It's Pia Vlock. She's into the Football Ferns as well. Football Ferns debut probably coming in Oceania again. World Cup qualifiers later this month. Just an insane rise for someone so young.
That is the niche case for this week. Big up to all the listeners and viewers. Hope you're doing well. Kia kaha. Stay beautiful. Church.